After almost 2 years of development, GTO Check is now finally here. You can head over to gtocheck.io right now and sign up for a subscription. To celebrate the launch, we're going to give away the first 2 chapters of the GTO Check blueprint, which you can find in the description below. And we're also going to give away 100% of all of the ad revenue I've ever earned from this YouTube channel since inception to the person that comes closest to guessing this amount. Now there are 2 ways to enter. 1, you can leave a comment on this video with your guess, or 2, you can retweet my tweet posting this video and comment with your guess. Entries will close in 1 week. GTO Check is a suite of resources that can help players of all experience levels learn fundamentally sound poker strategies. The headline feature is a GTO Check solver, which is an app that you can use to analyze no-limit hold'em hands you've played from a GTO perspective. Now there seems to be some confusion about what the GTO Check solver is, so in this video I'll be going a bit more in depth to explain how it works and compare it to the current gold standard of solvers, Piosolver. Needless to say, we wouldn't have put in all the time and effort to create GTO Check if we didn't think we wouldn't be able to significantly improve on certain aspects of current gen solvers. However, I want to be clear that I still believe Piosolver and other similar programs such as Simple Postflop are great tools. In fact, I believe current solvers could be used in a complementary way alongside GTO Check, so at the end of this video, I will also be pointing out certain features that current solvers have that GTO Check will not, at least initially. So to understand the concept behind the GTO Check solver, it will be helpful to step back and first provide an overview of the different components of a solver and how they function. Basically, all solvers have 3 phases: an input phase, a solving phase, and an output phase. And we developed GTO Check to enhance each of these steps. In the input phase, the user is required to provide the solver with all of the relevant details of the hand he wants to review: the pre-flop ranges of both players, the board cards, the effective stack size, the pot size, and the betting and raising options for each player on each street. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to input this information into a solver, however it can become a bit tedious, especially when you run sims often. And when your livelihood is built around your hourly, the few minutes it takes to set up a sim can really add up. Additionally, if you're a newer player, you may not have decent pre-flop ranges to use, or know what types of betting actions you should input, which can dramatically affect the quality of the solution. GTO Check addresses these issues by automating the input process. The user simply needs to copy a hand history and paste it into the web app, and GTO Check will then create a game tree based on the parameters of the hand history. No need to purchase or navigate through a library of pre-flop sims, or convert bet sizes from the hand history into percentages of the pot to be used as inputs for the solver. All of this grunt work is done for you automatically with no effort. The second phase is the solving phase, where game theory algorithms are applied to the game tree to solve for the strategies that maximize EV. With Piosolver, the calculations for the simulation are run on the user's host computer, which means it's limited by the user's hardware specifications. Generally, the 2 most important hardware specs that affect the solving process are CPU power, which affects the speed of the solve, and RAM capacity, which restricts how large of a game tree you can calculate. So for example, to run this hand involving a 200 big blind heads-up single raise pot using the same betting parameters as we use in GTO Check would require over 160 gigabytes of RAM. And on this $15,000 64-core computer, it took approximately 7 hours to solve this hand to an accuracy of 0.5% of the pot. Now granted, this is an extreme example, but even if you want to comfortably analyze a hand for a 100 big blind 6 max single raise pot and use a variety of sizings, generally you will need a pretty capable computer that costs several thousands of dollars, and during the solving process you may not be able to use other resource intensive programs on your computer at the same time. With GTO Check, the entire solving process is done for you in the cloud on a cluster of servers, meaning personal hardware requirements are no longer a limitation as long as you have internet access and a browser. You can run very complex large trees on a Chromebook, on a MacBook while sipping your soy milk latte, or even on a phone, though the charts will be a bit difficult to view and manipulate. The third and final phase is the output phase, where the data calculated by the solver is expressed in a viewer for the user to analyze. Most solvers incorporate the same primary hand grid visualization that has been in use since 2015. GTO Check has reimagined and rebuilt output visuals from the ground up, taking advantage of the recent innovations in the area of data visualizations, as well as the collective theoretical knowledge the poker community has accumulated over the last 6 years. We have a much better idea now than we did when solvers were first created about what GTO looks like and the important factors that drive EV maximizing strategies, so it's only natural for the technology that conveys the solver's outputs to evolve as well. Now, I'm not going to get into a detailed explanation of each chart in this video. If you want to see the charts in action and get further info regarding their design and functionality, you can check out some of my past videos, and I'll link some of the more pertinent ones in the description below. However, I do think it's important to highlight the underlying philosophy of the GTO Check solver design and how it may differ from other similar products. Most of the well-known GTO tools in the market, whether they be solvers, charts, or trainers, do a great job of explaining the what, but none of them are really designed to explain the why. This is understandable because GTO is extremely complex, and solvers don't actually use any sort of set program strategy that we can point to. However, when we boil it all down, true nash-equilibrium strategies are really calculated from just 3 variables: ranges, position, and SPR. Yes, you do need to input bet and raise sizes to run a simulation, but these inputs are actually limitations on the GTO strategy. They're not actually the drivers of such strategies. So given that all GTO strategies are derived from variations of these 3 variables, it logically follows that there must be some fundamental principles that we can identify that are underlying these strategies regardless of the specific game we're analyzing, whether full ring or heads up, cash or MTT. The primary mission of GTO Check is to uncover these fundamental principles, because understanding them will improve your ability to efficiently learn poker. And this axiom isn't just true in the context of poker, it's universal to the acquisition of any type of knowledge. But you don't just have to take my word for it. When asked how he has been able to master a variety of complex subject matter so quickly, one of the most prolific learners of our time replied, "It is important to view knowledge as sort of a semantic tree. Make sure you understand the fundamental principles, i.e. the trunk and big branches, before you get into the leaves/details, or there is nothing for them to hang on to." In the context of poker, the trunk or the fundamental principles are the things you hear me blab on about incessantly in my videos: range advantage, position, SPR, equity distributions, blockers, unblockers, etc. These are the factors that impact post-flop strategies in all no-limit hold'em games regardless of the format. The leaves are the specific strategies defined by the solver for each unique spot. For example, how to play Queen 10 of spades on a Jack 7 deuce rainbow flop, button versus big blind in a single raise pot 100 big blinds deep. Most current tools on the market simply give you the leaves, whereas GTO Check strives to give you the trunk. And while you can learn poker from just observing many different leaves and finding patterns, you will likely be able to learn more quickly and absorb that information on a much deeper level if you first understand the trunk from which the leaves spring. So now that we've given you an overview of some of the improvements GTO Check has made over current solvers, I will now, for the sake of full disclosure and total transparency, list a few of the advantages that current solvers have over GTO Check. The first and perhaps most important one is that because GTO Check rents servers for calculations, it is a subscription-based service with a monthly fee which depends on the number of sims you want to calculate. In contrast, with most current solvers, you just have to pay a one-time fee and then you can calculate as many sims as you want. We've tried to somewhat address this limitation in GTO Check by building a robust library of sims that users can download 100 per week, but of course these sims aren't customized for specific hand scenarios. Along the same lines, while you can solve basically any type of 2-player no-limit game you want with current solvers, with GTO Check, there will be some limitations on the types of games that can be solved. For example, initially there won't be support for full ring MTT, ICM, bounties, straddles, or certain card rooms, though we do plan to expand our list of supported games on a continual basis. Another limitation of GTO Check is that you cannot customize or change the alternate bet sizings used within the app. The GTO Check solver does use the actual bet sizings for the hand history and then adds other common sizings to see if the solver prefers them, But for example, if you wanted to see if the solver prefers a 10% c-bet instead of our default 25% c-bet, the only way to verify that is to rerun the hand using that specific sizing. Users can download the file for any hand they solve with GTO Check and then change the bet sizings on turns and rivers using the free version of Simple Postflop, but if you want to change any flop sizings, you'll need to buy the full version. So this was a high-level overview of the GTO Check solver, why we created it, and how it differs fundamentally from current-gen solvers on the market. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments. Until next time, let's get balanced.